What is going on, everybody? Episode 6, Navy Wrestling Club podcast. We are back from Vegas, and we are back on the podcast. Before we get into the recap of this weekend over in Las Vegas, just want to send another reminder. I'm going to keep sending out every week. We have a doubleheader the weekend of 17 January with Lehigh, and then the following day we've got a duel against Harvard. Navy Wrestling Club is going to be hosting another social like we did for Blue and Gold this year at Federal House. So January 17th, Federal House, 4:30 p.m. Till approximately 6:30 before the duel, the Lehigh duel. We'll have 2 hours of fun, 2 hours of catching up, 2 hours of hanging out, talking about the season upcoming and what we've done so far. Hanging out with coaches, hanging out with club coaches and some of the athletes, and obviously you guys, friends and family. Please, all are welcome. Turnout for the Blue and Gold Social was awesome, and hopefully we can continue to have great turnout with these socials. We keep doing them, and we'll have a great weekend of wrestling. So, again, January 17th, 4:30, Federal House, prior to the Lehigh match. And then the next day, we'll have Harvard. Lehigh, 7:30, Harvard, 5 p.m., both in Alumni Hall. All right, this weekend, Las Vegas, Nevada for the Cliff Keen Las Vegas Invitational. Took 8 guys out there, 25 through 84. To be frank, it was, I think we underperformed as a team, only taking 2 guys into the Saturday round. So we, competition started Friday morning, and making it into the second day meant that you were going to get on the stand top 8. So we got 2 guys to the second day. This tournament was tough. It was brutal. Like I said, I think we underperformed as a team. However, this is what the national tournament will look like in March. There were, I really looked at 41 and 74 because those were our 2 guys that we took to the next day. Those were the 2 guys who got on the podium. Between both of them, 41, we had 13 ranked opponents in the bracket. It was a 32-man bracket. However, most of that was pigtails. And in 174, there were also 13 ranked opponents. So every match, these guys ran into somebody who will most likely be at in Philadelphia in March. So they're going to run into these guys again. So it was a great opportunity, even for the guys to who underperformed on Friday. It was a good test and really gave them the opportunity to really see where they were at in the season. Where can we make those micro adjustments for the it's a long season. We're about a month in. What are the micro adjustments that I can make now? So when we're wrestling Army, when we're wrestling at WAs this year at Lehigh, and when we're going to Philadelphia in March, where am I at when I am wrestling the top guys in the country, and what adjustments can I make between now and then so that I can accomplish the goals that I set out to do at the beginning of the season? So with that said, underperformed, but it was a great opportunity, a great test. Guys got some good travel in. And we've had a brutal season so far. We've wrestled some top teams in these duels, and then we've seen some great guys in the tournament. So, with that being said, let's take a look at 141. I'm going to share my screen here, and you guys are going to just take a look. Yep, so this is Josh's bracket. And like I mentioned before, he's got 13 ranked guys in this weight class. Josh came in as the number 5 seed, so you'll see him over here. He had, who was this guy? Grayson Clark, Purdue, ranked number 29 on Flow. Josh went out there and took it to him pretty handedly, decisive victory, 9-2. And I'm going to show some highlights for some of this, but I'm just going to breeze through some of their brackets because it just to really highlight the caliber of competition that these guys, specifically Danny and Josh, who they faced throughout the weekend. Okay, so this was the round of 16. He gets through Grayson Clark, 9-2, solid win. great match for him, leading up into a very contested quarterfinals against a very high caliber opponent in Sergio Lemley from Michigan, who's currently ranked number 7. Josh came into this tournament ranked number 8. Knew he was going to see Lemley from Michigan, and they end up knocking into each other in the quarterfinals. So number 7 versus number 8. And, as you can see on the bracket here, Josh comes out on top with a 2-1 victory, which went into overtime. And again, I'll kind of break down that match with some highlights and kind of we'll see together some of the moments in that one. It was pretty, obviously a low-scoring match, but that doesn't mean there wasn't action, and those two were very competitive with one another. And then, you'll see that Josh is wrestling the returning national champion, Jesse Mendez, Ohio State, in the semis. And look at the score here, 8-6. This was the one where Josh really got to see where he was at. Look, Mendez has been hot really since last year, and Josh brought it to him. We'll look at – I don't have all of the clips from that match, but I broke down some of it. And just before we get into it, I'll highlight, really start by saying he started slow. I think, Jesse took it to him the first minute and a half of the match, but Josh brought the fire for the remaining 5.5 minutes. And the back half of the match, Josh is forcing stall calls. He's pushing Jesse Mendez into a corner and got 3 stall calls at the end of the match that brought him within a takedown. And you can go on Flow and watch the whole match and really see Koder's pace, intensity, and action really, kind of put Jesse in an awkward position. If there was another minute on the clock, 30 seconds, even I'd give Josh 30 seconds any day to score a takedown. So, that who would have known, who's to say what the score would have been had he not started so slow. And that loss, unfortunately, knocked him down into the consolation bracket. So he jumped down to the Consi semis, where he was going to face Frost of Iowa State. And again, this was Frost came into this tournament unranked and knocked off some pretty tough guys. In the Consi of 4, he did get a medical forfeit against, the number 6, Cale Happel of Northern Iowa, but that's not to say Frost is not a contender here, a good athlete and strong competitor. And this was a war. This was a 7-minute war that Josh had to fight tooth and nail, really to the end. And I'll show some of that as well. And then Josh bumped into his friend Brock Hardy of Nebraska. Hardy came into the tournament number 4 on Intermat and got the best of him again this time. But, Josh is going to keep making those adjustments, and he's a dangerous man when he gets on a hot streak. And, it's better to get these out of the way now instead of, wait till March. So I know Josh will make adjustments and continue to succeed throughout the rest of the season. And hopefully he'll get some revenge in March when we bump into Nebraska, hopefully, at the NCAA tournament. I'm going to slide over to Danny. So that put Josh at 4th. Took 4th at, like I said, the top tournament in the country this weekend, and maybe the toughest tournament of the year other than NCAA's. So congrats to Josh. Good tournament, bunch of good matches against some highly ranked guys. Took 4th in a bracket with 13 ranked opponents. Let's take a look at Wask. 174. Like I said earlier, 13 ranked opponents in this weight class as well. And Danny came in at the number 5. His win over Lenny Pinto certainly helped him out. He's ranked 18th, I think, by Intermat. At least he was prior to the tournament. I don't know if they've updated it since. But, that win over Pinto really gave him the opportunity to fight for this 5th seed. It justified it. And he ended up finishing 6th, but every one of these matches that Danny had was against a ranked opponent and was certainly in the match for all of them. So he had a first round bye, and then in the round of 16 he faced I don't want to mispronounce his name, Brody Bowman, Purdue, ranked 28th. So tough kid. Bowman comes out hot, gets a quick takedown, and Danny really just has to chip away, really put his conditioning on display, and did a great job of staying composed. And I don't think I got any highlights of his, but of this match specifically. But I do just want to emphasize, Bowman, apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He got a match in earlier that morning, so he, already got that one out of the way, came out a little bit stronger at the beginning of the match, and then Danny just stayed composed and chip away. Got a couple takedowns, got some riding time, and just really did a great job of stealing that. Really, he put it to him towards the end. So gave up the early takedown and wrestled hard. After that, he's moving into the quarters. He's got Lorenzo Norman, who was a former teammate of his down at Blair. So these guys knew each other. They've got some history. And Norman came into the tournament at the 4 seed, currently ranked 8th in the country. And again, this is one that Danny, I think, could have won. And, if he goes back and listens to this, I think he'll agree that he started too slow. He gave up a couple takedowns and made it even harder for him to come back. But, with that being said, gave up 3 takedowns in the first, but really turned it around. So I think it was 9-2 going into the second, and he turned it on. He put the pace on him. He got a takedown, got a reversal. So he gave himself a chance to win, and I think Danny's one of those guys. He's got a high wrestling IQ. He's going to go back and look at this film and make those adjustments. And, hopefully we bump into Norman again later in the year. So that kicks Danny down into the consolation bracket, where he's got to wrestle Friday night, again, right after this loss, against Michigan, Walker. And Walker is ranked 27th by Intermat. So Joseph Walker, 27th. Tough kid. Tough match. Again, he started slow and had to battle back. And I think the thing with Danny is what we can all expect from him is just he's gonna scrap for 7 minutes. He's gonna push the pace. He's gonna create action, and he's gonna make it a war every single time. And he does not panic under the weight of having to score points. If he goes down early, he doesn't freak out. He stays consistent with his offense, and you can see his opponents break under that pace and that pressure because it's overwhelming. And that's kind of what I saw here, and he's just resilient with it. So, Danny gets a hard-fought win over a tough, Joseph Walker of Michigan, which puts him in the Consi round of 4 against the number 3 ranked Cade DeVos of South Dakota State. Cade got eliminated in the, I want to say the quarters. We'll look at it again. Yeah, he wrestled Garrett Thompson, who Danny had beaten 2 weeks prior at the Navy Classic. Garrett Thompson takes DeVos out 10-7, puts him in the semis against Norman. DeVos gets bumped in the consies, where he unfortunately bumps into our boy Danny Wask. And Danny, this was a great match for Danny. DeVos is going to be a highly ranked and seeded guy at NCAAs this year. So having this win on his record this year is pretty big when it comes to rankings and when we get into the seeding stuff towards the end of the year. So great win for Danny. 3 takedowns on DeVos, and really just outworked him. And again, we're going to look at some of the highlights from these guys. And then that puts Danny in the Conti semis, and unfortunately bumps into another teammate of his, another Blair teammate of his, Simon Ruiz Cornell, number 13 in the country. All these guys are right around, that top 15, top 10, and Danny's right there. He beat the number 3 guy in the country, runs into an old teammate. Sometimes those are hard matches to wrestle. You guys they'd been in the room for 3 or 4 years together, and obviously know each other's styles. This was one that I think, if Danny got his hands on him, next weekend, like I know I'd be confident that it would play out a little differently. Just was not really able to get to his offense after a long weekend of wrestling to that point. So, adjustments are going to have to be made. But with that being said, he still got on the podium, and we're proud of him for that. But it bumped him down into the 5th and 6th, where he ran into EIWA, Binghamton, Casella, Brevin Casella, Binghamton, number 15 in the country. And that one was rough. But, Danny had a great weekend. He wrestled hard. And took 6th in, like I said, the hardest tournament of the year to this point. And so taking a look at some of Josh's highlights, and again, I'll kind of recap some of the stuff that we talked about in the with the brackets. This was Josh against Grayson Clark, Purdue. It was a nice head inside single. I think he surprised himself how deep he got in the shot. Usually Josh is good at swinging around the corner there. He cuts it back. Real clean finish. Again, he goes on to win this one 9-2. Grayson Clark was ranked, 29th in the country on flow. It was a nice head inside. He kind of gets him up into this cow catcher situation that we see Josh going to so often. Doesn't get the fall, but he gets 2 swipes and comes out on top here. And this, again, is the one that sets up the match with Lemley. Great first match for Josh. He's just been so consistent with his offense, his training. He's really found the whole balance package to be successful at this level so far. And that's really why he is the leader of this team, because he does such a great job on and off the mat, and he sets the example. All right, so 9-2 over Grayson Clark. That sets up like I said, a Lemley semifinal. Lemley ranked 7th in the country. This right here, I believe, is the beginning of the second period. It was a 0-0 first period. Just wanted to highlight how tough Josh was riding really all weekend. I think, I know, from experience, when guys are wrestling top guys, they're reluctant to make it a fight on the mat. And Josh does not care. He is going to make this guy earn it. And he did that with all these tough guys. Oh, there was a nice little flurry right there. This is at the end of the second period. So Lemley's got a 1-0 lead going into the third. Here's the beginning of the third. Not a whole lot of offense. These guys were very even as far as hand fighting and disciplined with their stance, with their shot selection, and staying in a good position through, for the duration of the match. Josh is going to get away here, make it a even bout at 1-1, and then they're just going to continue to hand fight and scrap it out for the remainder of the third and throughout the entire 2-minute overtime period. Here's a little flurry here where Lemley almost gets him, and then Josh just, this is towards the end of the third too, fights it hard, roll through, and almost gets the takedown at the end of the third here on that dive under roll, that counter offense. Just runs out of time, really. But these guys were back and forth the whole time. This was a nail biter, but Josh stayed composed under the weight of the match, but he wrestled real hard. So this is the 30-second ride out after the 2-minute neutral, and Josh rides him hard for 30 seconds. I never really watched, watching it in live, watching it in the film, there was never really a moment where I thought that Lemley was going to get away. I'm highlighting this, I'm recapping this section because there was a short break following Josh's ride out. The refs wanted to review this position right here. They reviewed it to see if it was an illegal move. You can't leave your feet to crash the legs like this. The judges ultimately reviewed it and said that it was a legal move because contact apparently had been made after he had been on the mat. Had he made contact with Josh's leg while he was in the air, which it kind of looks like he is right there, but we'll give it to the refs then. But had he tripped him, while he was in the air here, that would have been a point deduct or a point for Josh, which would have really sealed it at this point. They say he didn't make contact until he had hit the mat. Josh covers fine, which sets up a 30-second ride out for Josh going down. Now, Lemley knows he's not going to hold him for 30 seconds, so he brings him up. And the rules of the overtime are, whoever has most riding time at the conclusion of the 2 ride outs is declared the winner. So there's no neutral last takedown unless both guys ride each other out for 30 seconds. Then it goes back on their feet. Josh rides him out for 30. Lemley thinks he can take him down in the 30, so he goes neutral. Josh secures the victory with a 1-point escape and, that 30-second ride out. So this is just Lemley trying to, frenzy a late score. Josh just stays disciplined in his stance and really kept his composure, given the situation against a tough guy. Little celebration there. That puts Josh in the semis. So sorry, this was a quarterfinal match. And that puts Josh in the semis against number 1 Jesse Mendez. And as I mentioned earlier, Josh started out slow, gave up 2 in the first minute and a half for 2 takedowns, and then really for the next 5.5 minutes, it's all Josh. So here is the beginning of the third period. Josh is down 7-2 at this point. He's got 2 escapes. Jesse's got 2 takedowns and an escape. He got an escape in the second. So this is the beginning of the third. Josh goes down, double boots come in, hits this real slick step over after the legs are in. Boom, right into this high flying mat return, and that was a statement maker right there, and just really rode him real hard there on that mat return. So it's 8-4 after the reversal, and then Josh cuts him because he's got to start getting some takedowns. At this point, Josh has gotten 2 stall calls against Mendez, just from the high pace and tempo that he's been putting on him. So as you can see now, it's 8-5. Jesse's been hit twice for stalling. We're in the third period, and Koder is really just moving forward, controlling the center of the mat, working his tie-ups, pushing Jesse across the mat. He's getting frustrated. There's another point. So 8-6 here. And as you can see in the background, there's only 23 seconds, which is certainly enough time. Had there been more, I would have liked a little bit more time. But Josh just pushed the pace. Had he hadn't started so slow, who's to say he wouldn't have come up on top this against this guy. So he looked real solid. I think this was, like I said earlier, a good measurement. See where he was at. What micro adjustments can he make before March? Because it's likely he'll bump into Mendez and party once more at the end of this season. Just a little caution there. 6 seconds left. Last chance. Doesn't get it. Good match though. Good test for Josh. It was a good test. That bumps him down into the consies, like I mentioned earlier. Where he hits Frost. Now, I've got us here, he just got an escape there. At the beginning of, this is the beginning of the third period. Sorry, towards the end of, I think there's a minute left in the third period here. Josh is down 3, gets the quick escape. He's down 2 now. And this is, he gave up 2 takedowns, I think, in this match. That sounds right. 8-7 is the final. But this is just a great example of the grit that, Josh really puts on his opponents. It's end of the match, less than a minute now at this point, and there is nothing that is going to stop Josh from getting this takedown here. It's a great flurry. It's a great scramble. Frost does a great job of, hanging onto the leg and really trying to slow Koder down, but it's just Koder's too much at this point. Just relentless there. So he hits this real slick roll through off the opponent's single leg, comes out on top, and he's got to stay tight here on top for the last 10, 15 seconds to seal the victory. I know this isn't the way that Josh wanted to win against this guy, but hey, he gritted it out, he gutted it out, and again, a good match. Those are the type of matches you sometimes need to have, so you can tell yourself, like, hey, I can win these tough ones and not panic when I'm down, even late in the match. Josh never had a doubt in his mind he was going to come back and win that match. So that'll do it for Josh. We're going to look at Wask now, some of his stuff. We'll start with his match against Lorenzo Norman. This is the beginning of the second. Like I mentioned earlier, Danny started real slow and got taken down several times. So he came into the second period in a 9-2 hole, gets that reversal, 9-4, gives up the escape, 10-4 now, and he just brings it for the rest of them. The remainder of the time, for 4 minutes at this point, and you really see Lorenzo Norman start to slip. Like, he's just holding on. If he didn't get those 3 takedowns, like Danny would have crushed him. And so he kind of dug himself into a hole, and he's digging himself out here. He's in on the leg, comes up to the body, right into this nice body lock finish. Man, he could, just a little tweak of the shoulder, he could have ended up on top there and gotten the back points. So he ends up falling to Norman, 12-7. Like I said, giving up a couple extra in the beginning, made it hard on himself. Drops him into consolation bracket, Consi 8 of 2 against Joseph Walker, Michigan. And this was, maybe 30 minutes after the Lorenzo Norman match. This is Friday night, so he's got to win this to get on the podium the next day. And this is early in the first. About middle of the first. Middle of the first. Gives up a takedown to Joseph Walker here. And I just bring this up. I just show this here because, he did fight it real hard. But Danny, as I mentioned earlier, again, is just so consistent with his pace and his work that he doesn't panic. He gets the quick escape, and he's right back on him. Doesn't get any points in the end of the first, other than that escape, but gets this quick escape in the beginning of the second, and is right on the leg. Trying to get that, go-ahead takedown here. So we're in the second and doesn't get it. But he does get this one. This is in the third. So after Walker gets away, it makes it 4-2. One takedown match. Danny does a counter off Walker's shot into a single leg to the left side and gets into this pretty tough scramble here. It's a pretty long scramble in on the leg and just stays strong here and doesn't panic and inches closer and closer. Plenty of time on the clock. He's aware of that. Just tries to stay in solid position to get that go-ahead takedown, and that's what he does. And then he's tough on top for the remainder, 20, 30 seconds. Knows he has to get the ride out for this 5-4 victory to put him against K. DeVos the following morning. Number 1 seed, third in the country. So he's tough on this ride and just guts it out the last 20, 30 seconds. Here's the match with DeVos. Just Danny, again, gave up a takedown early, but gets the escape here. Believe it. This makes it 3-2. So this was the second period, yeah. Danny's down 3-2, but he doesn't panic. He stays in there. And I believe this score coming up here is off of DeVos's shot. Yeah, right here. So he's going to sit the corner hard. Elevate him through, get his hips. You see me in the background arguing for some swipes. Heavy hips. Nice. He crowds him over. Still hasn't gotten the takedown, but at this point, he's pretty much just got to stay in good position here. He'll get it. I don't even think they've given it to him. Again, I'm freaking out in the background. There we go. No back points were awarded here, and they obviously he does get the takedown, but they end up calling it a stalemate, which I thought was weird, with DeVos being on his hip, where Danny was right, like you saw, like right about to get him into back point position there. So Danny's up 5-2. DeVos in on his legs again, just tough right there. Does not give up the takedown on the edge. Stays real heavy with his hips and disciplined there. Knew where he was. He knew he was on the edge and didn't panic. He just stayed composed. Here's a nice counter Danny hits to really ice this thing. This puts him up, what I say, 5-2. This is now 8-3. So that was 5-4. Yeah. Okay. So 5-4. This will make it 8-4. Then boom to the back. It was just a last effort from DeVos. Had to slow it down for you. Pancake. Nice work, Danny Wask. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for sticking with me here. I'm gonna keep doing it. If you guys keep watching it, I have a lot of fun doing it, and can't wait to keep highlighting our guys. I can tell you personally, they're busting their butt in the room and working hard in the classroom, and just a real enjoyable group to work with day in and day out. And they got finals week this week. It's Army-Navy week for football. FedEx Field. So if you guys are going, have a great time. Obviously beat Army. And we will see the guys compete in Alumni Hall December 21st against American. Hang tight with me here, and I will. Yep. We got American December 21st, 2 p.m. in Alumni Hall. If you guys are around, come say hey, check it out, and cheer on the mids. As I said in the beginning, one more time, and I'll keep on saying it. January 17th, 4:30 p.m. Federal House, NWC social before the duel, where we'll take on currently ranked 23 Lehigh. Well, that's all I got, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next week. Have a good one.